Imagine locking your door at night, thinking you're safe, only to realize someone's been watching you for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. What if the stranger you pass on the street wasn't just a passerby, but someone with a darker plan? Tonight, we dive into 5 extremely disturbing encounters with potential serial killers, stalkers, and robbers, real stories that will make you question every shadow. These tales aren't just creepy. They unravel the chilling truth about the predators hiding in plain sight. You'll hear about ordinary people who cross paths with danger, their lives forever changed by what they discovered. Stay with us, because the first story will grip you tighter than you expect. We're starting with a theme that burrows into your mind. The moment you realize you're not alone, it's that primal fear of being hunted, of eyes on you when you think you're safe. These stories aren't about monsters under the bed. They're about real people who barely escape the unthinkable. Each tale ties to a single thread. Encounters so unsettling, they make you wonder how close you've come to danger without knowing. We'll explore 5 stories, but tonight we begin with 2 that set the stage for terror. They're linked by a haunting question. What happens when the person you trust turns out to be your worst nightmare? Let's step into the darkness. Fear has a way of sneaking up on you. It's not always a scream in the night. Sometimes it's a quiet knock at the door, a car following too closely, or a stranger who knows your name. These stories tap into that dread, the kind that makes your heart race before you even understand why. Imagine being alone, thinking you're safe, only to feel that icy prickle on your neck. That's where our first story begins, with a young woman named Sarah, who thought her new apartment was her fresh start. Instead, it became a trap. Sarah moved into a quiet building in a small town, eager for a new chapter. The place was old, with creaky floors and thin walls, but it felt like home. She'd spend evenings unpacking, her music drowning out the world. One night, she noticed something odd, a faint tapping from the other side of her bedroom wall. It wasn't loud, just rhythmic, like someone was testing the surface. She brushed it off as pipes, maybe a neighbor, but the tapping came again the next night, and the night after, always at the same time, just past midnight. She started to feel uneasy, like someone was trying to get her attention. Then she found a note, slipped under her door, a piece of paper, waited one morning. It was simple, handwritten. You're not as alone as you think. Her stomach dropped. She checked the locks, the windows. Everything was secure. She called the landlord, who laughed it off, saying old buildings have quirks. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. She started noticing small things. Her keys weren't where she left them. Her coffee mug was moved, and once, her laptop was open when she swore she'd shut it. Was she paranoid, or was someone inside her home? The answer came on a rainy night. Sarah woke to the sound of footsteps in her living room. Not the creak of the building, but deliberate steps, slow and heavy. Her heart pounded as she grabbed her phone, dialing for help, but the line was dead. She crept to her bedroom door, peering through the crack. A shadow moved across the wall, a figure, tall and still, standing in her kitchen. She froze, barely breathing, as the figure turned, their face hidden in the dark. Then they whispered her name. Not a guess, not a mistake. Her full name, spoken like they'd known her forever. She bolted the door, barricading herself until morning. When she checked, no one was there, but her front door was unlocked. The police found no evidence of a break-in, but Sarah wasn't imagining things. A week later, she discovered a hidden panel in her closet, barely noticeable behind a loose board. Inside was a crawl space, just big enough for a person. There, she found a sleeping bag, empty food wrappers, and a notebook filled with her schedule when she left for work, when she came home, even what she ate. Someone had been living in her walls, watching her every move. The notebook had one final entry. She's starting to suspect. Sarah moved out that day, but the fear never left her. Who was in her home, and how long had they been there? That story lingers, doesn't it? The idea that your safe space could hide something so sinister. But if Sarah's tale made your skin crawl, the next one will tighten the knot in your stomach. It's about a man named Tom who thought he was helping a stranger in need. Instead, he walked into a trap that nearly cost him everything. Tom was driving home late, cutting through a rural road lined with dense woods. It was past midnight, the kind of dark where your headlights barely cut through. He spotted a car pulled over, hood up, and a woman waving him down. She looked frantic, her face pale under the moonlight. Tom, a mechanic by trade, couldn't just drive by. He pulled over, asking what was wrong. She said her car wouldn't start, and she was alone, no signal to call for help. Her voice trembled, but something about her eyes felt off. Too calm, too focused. Still, Tom offered to take a look. He popped the hood, checking the engine, while she stood nearby, watching silently. The car looked fine, no obvious issues, but Tom felt uneasy. The woods were too quiet, the air too still. He suggested she call a tow truck from his phone, but she insisted she had no one to call. Then, she asked him to drive her to a nearby gas station. Against his better judgment, he agreed, but as they walked his car, he noticed something chilling. Her shadow didn't match her movements. It lagged like it belonged to someone else. He brushed it off, blaming the dim light, but his gut screamed to leave. In the car, she sat in the passenger seat, clutching a small bag. Tom tried to make conversation, but she answered in short, vague sentences. The gas station was only 10 minutes away, but the road felt endless. He glanced at her, noticing her hands, scarred, knuckles white around the bag. Then, his radio crackled, spitting static before a low voice whispered, "Get out." It wasn't her voice. Tom's heart raced, but he kept driving, pretending he hadn't heard. She didn't react, just stared ahead, her breathing slow and steady. He needed to get her out of his car. When they reached the gas station, it was closed, the lights off. Tom's unease turned to panic. She turned to him, her voice suddenly sharp. "You shouldn't have stopped." Before he could respond, headlights flared behind them. Another car, pulling up fast. Two men stepped out, their faces hidden by hoods. Tom didn't wait to find out their intentions. He floored the gas, speeding away as a woman screamed, banging on the window. He drove straight to a police station, shaking, and reported everything. The police searched the area but found no trace of the woman or the car. Later, they told Tom about a string of robberies on that road, where a woman lured drivers to stop, only for her accomplices to strike. Some victims hadn't been so lucky. Tom's story leaves you wondering, how close did he come to being another statistic? The idea of a stranger turning predator is terrifying, but what if the danger is closer than you think? Something ties these stories together, a thread so dark it's hard to believe. What if the person watching Sarah and the woman who lured Tom weren't acting alone? What if their actions were part of something bigger, a pattern no one saw coming? That's a question we'll unravel soon, but it's going to twist your perception of safety even further. Remember Sarah, the woman who found a stranger living in her walls, tracking her every move? And Tom, who nearly fell victim to a roadside trap set by a woman and her hidden partners. Those stories left us with a chilling puzzle. What if these weren't random acts, but pieces of a larger web, where predators shared secrets and targets? The truth is even darker than you imagined. These encounters weren't isolated. They connected through an underground network, a hidden online forum where stalkers, robbers, and worse traded tips on how to hunt without getting caught. Sarah's intruder and Tom's lures were members, using the group to perfect their methods, turning ordinary lives into games of terror. This revelation doesn't just tie them together. It means anyone could be next, their details sold or shared in the shadows. The stakes are higher now, as we descend deeper into the nightmare. With that paradox unraveled, let's uncover more layers that make these stories even more unsettling. Starting back with Sarah's ordeal, the motive behind her wall dweller wasn't just obsession. It was a twisted experiment. The notebook she found wasn't random. It detailed a plan to study her reactions, like a lab rat in her own home. He wanted to see how long she could ignore the signs before breaking, all to post his findings in that secret forum, earning praise from others like him. Sarah later learned, through a tip from an anonymous source, that her apartment was chosen because it had those hidden spaces, mapped out in the group's shared files. The intruder had been there before she moved in, waiting for the perfect tenant. His true purpose? To push her to the edge, then vanish, leaving her doubting her sanity forever. Shifting to Tom's narrow escape, there's a forgotten link that ties his story to older tales of the night. That rural road wasn't random. It echoed an ancient legend from the area about wanderers who lured travelers into the woods, never to return. But in modern times, the woman and her accomplices updated the myth, using it as cover in their forum posts. They pose as ghosts or hitchhikers from the old stories, blending folklore with real crime to confuse victims and police. Tom's report matched descriptions from decades ago, but with a digital twist. The group had revived a legend online, recruiting new members to keep the terror alive. This connection didn't just haunt Tom. It meant the danger had roots deeper than he knew, spreading like roots under the soil. Now, let's peel back more on the third story we touched on last time, about Emily, who received anonymous gifts that knew her too well. The blood oath sacrifice in her tale wasn't literal, but a commitment one of her admirers made in the forum, a promise to escalate his stalking if she didn't respond. He'd shared photos of her daily life, vowing to get closer, and the group egged him on, demanding proof. Emily found out when a package arrived with a locket containing a strand of hair, hers, clipped without her knowing. The price he paid was his own isolation, cutting ties with his real life to focus solely on her, turning his obsession into a full-time hunt. This revelation made Emily realize her stalker wasn't alone. He had a virtual audience cheering his every move. Digging further into Emily's nightmare, there's a time-slipped relic that bridges her story to the past. One of the gifts was an antique watch, engraved with a date from over a century ago, but it ticked in sync with her phone's notifications. She traced it to a pawn shop, where records showed it had been sold multiple times, each owner reporting strange followers. In the forum, her stalker bragged about planting it, claiming it carried a curse from old crimes, linking modern stalking to historical vanishings. The watch wasn't just a gift. It was a symbol, passed among group members to mark their targets, carrying echoes of past victims who were never found. Emily smashed it, but the ticking lingered in her dreams, introducing a new layer of dread with our fourth story, about a couple, Mark and Lisa, who heard a chorus of whispers through their home vents, backwards and eerie. At first, they thought it was a wind, but playing it in reverse revealed voices discussing their routines. The soundtrack came from hidden mics, installed by a robber scouting their house via the forum. He'd posed as a repairman weeks earlier, wiring the place to listen in. The backwards chorus was his way of taunting them, sharing clips online for laughs. Mark discovered this when a neighbor mentioned hearing similar sounds, leading to a police sweep that found the devices. But the robber had already fled, taking their sense of security with him. Delving into that keeper's diary from Mark and Lisa's tale, it turns out the robber kept a digital log in the forum, contradicting his own posts. He claimed it was just for theft, but entries revealed a deeper thrill, watching them argue, sleep, live, turning robbery into personal invasion. One entry noted Lisa's fear of the dark, which he exploited by cutting power one night. The diary, leaked after his arrest in another state, showed he'd targeted them because Mark resembled someone from his past, blending revenge with crime. This insider account didn't just expose him. It revealed how the group encouraged mixing motives, making every encounter unpredictable. Here's where things get even murkier. What if these stories aren't just connected by a forum, but by a single mastermind pulling strings from the shadows? A figure who recruits, trains, and disposes of members when they get too close to being caught? That enigma hangs heavy, and we'll pierce in the final part. But for now, it twists the knife deeper into your trust. Pressing on with the fourth story, the true name half-decoded of the entity behind the whispers wasn't a person, but a code name in the forum, Echo Hunter. Mark pieced it together from scrambled posts, realized it referred to a user who specialized in audio surveillance. Half the name came from a tattoo on a suspect in a related case. Linking back to the group, decoding it led to a profile filled with tips on hiding in plain sight, used by stalkers like Sarah's intruder. This discovery didn't stop the whispers from Mark and Lisa. It amplified them, as copycats adopted the method. Circling back to Sarah's story, there's an omen across centuries that mirrors her hidden panel. Old blueprints of her building, dug up online, showed similar spaces used in the 1800s for smuggling, but four members twisted them into modern layers. Symbols etched in the wood matched those in ancient paintings of watchers on the walls, suggesting the idea wasn't new. The group drew from history to innovate terror. Sarah saw one such painting in a museum, her face paling as the eyes seemed to follow her, echoing her nightmare. For Tom's encounter, a haunted celluloid resurfaces. Lost dashcam footage from similar lures, shared in the forum as training videos. Tom's description matched a clip from years ago, where a victim was as lucky, their car found abandoned. The newsreel, grainy and forgotten, showed the same woman, ageless, luring drivers. Police dismissed it as coincidence, but Tom knew better. The group recycled members, passing roles like scripts in a play. In Mark and Lisa's saga, an impossible phenomenon unfolded when they experienced a time rupture. Whispers predicting events before they happened. One night, the voices mentioned a fight they had the next day, word for word. Investigators called it coincidence, but forum leaks showed the robber had hacked their calendars, scripting the audio to mess with their minds. This wasn't just listening, it was manipulating time perception, making victims question reality. About a journalist named Alex, who uncovered conspiracy dossier hinting at a government cover-up of these networks. He received an anonymous file detailing how authorities knew about the forum, but let it run to catch bigger fish. The dossier listed encounters like Sarah's and Tom's as test cases. Ignored the lure-out leaders. Alex's digging put him in the crosshairs. His emails hacked, his steps shadowed. The hidden forum linking Sarah's wall intruder, Tom's roadside ambush, Emily's obsessive gifter, Mark and Lisa's whisper stalker, and Alex's conspiracy chase. We left off with a haunting riddle. What if a single mastermind orchestrated it all, recruiting predators, teaching them tricks, and silencing those who slipped up? The answer shatters everything. This shadow figure isn't a myth. It's a real person, a former detective gone rogue, using inside knowledge to build a network. He started it years ago, after leaving the force under suspicious circumstances, turning his skills against the innocent. He picks targets based on patterns only he sees, disposing of loose ends by tipping off police anonymously. This doesn't just connect the dots. It means the game is rigged, with him always one step ahead, watching from afar, with that veil torn away. The climax hits hard, revealing truths that reframe every whisper and shadow. Starting with Alex's story, the ritual fulfilled wasn't some ancient ceremony, but the network's endgame, a massive data harvest where members collected personal details from victims to sell on the dark web. Alex stumbled onto this when his dossier revealed coded messages in the forum outlining a harvest night where all active hunts peaked at once. The cult-like loyalty came from promises of riches, but the mastermind pocketed most, using the info for bigger schemes like identity theft rings. Alex tried to expose it, but his last article vanished online, along with backups, as the network erased him digitally first. This exposure didn't stop the harvest. It accelerated it, with new victims reported in patterns matching our stories. Peeling back further on Alex's tale, the doppelganger revealed shakes the foundation. A key survivor from an early case was actually the mastermind in disguise, posing as a victim to infiltrate investigations. This person, known only as Echo in whispers, had faked their own encounter years ago, using it to gain trust and access police files. Alex met them during his research, thinking they were an ally, but clues like matching scars from old photos unmasked the truth. The hidden identity meant every tip Alex got was planted, leading him deeper into the trap. When he confronted them, the response was chilling. A message saying, "You've been part of the game all along." Alex disappeared that night, his doppelganger stepping in to continue the charade, fooling even close friends. Circling back to Sarah's nightmare, the crime behind her stalking hid in a twisted continuity error that concealed a deeper offense. The notebook's entries had dates that didn't match. Some predated her move-in by months, pointing to a previous tenant who vanished without trace. Police dismissed it as a mix-up, but digging revealed the intruder had targeted the prior resident first, escalating to something irreversible when she caught on. The error was deliberate, scrubbed to hide that the wall space held clues to her fate, scraps of clothing, a lost earring, suggesting she never left. Sarah's discovery of the panel wasn't accidental. The mastermind leaked it via the forum to test if she connect the dots, turning her escape into another layer of the hunt. For Tom's roadside terror, the cursed screenings emerge as forums shared videos of past lures that sparked copycat waves globally. That lost dashcam footage wasn't isolated. It was part of a series uploaded anonymously, inspiring robbers in other countries to mimic the setup. Viewers in the group treated it like a tutorial, adapting the woman's role for new terrains, leading to a spike in similar incidents worldwide. Tom's story went viral in those circles after his report leaked, becoming a cursed example of what happens when prey fights back. Police noticed a pattern too late, as the video self-deleted after views, leaving echoes of haunted survivors who reported hearing the same static whispers in their dreams. In Emily's gift-stalk world, mass vanishings tied to her antique watch symbol appeared during recent disappearances, etched on belongings left behind. The sigil-like engraving matched marks found at scenes where people simply faded away. No struggle, just empty homes. Forum posts bragged about using the relic to mark targets, claiming it carried a psychological pull that made victims compliant. Emily's stalker had passed it along a chain, each user adding to its power by linking it to a vanishing. Modern cases mirrored this, with the watch surfacing in pawn shops near incident sites, as if it traveled on its own. This didn't just scare Emily. It meant her ordeal was a link in a chain of lost souls, the sigil a beacon for the network's silent takedowns. Finally, for Alex's saga, the cosmic truth reframes every story. Not as random encounters, but as threads in a vast simulation run by the mastermind, testing human fear limits for a hidden agenda. The forum was a front for data collection on reactions, sold to shadowy firms studying crowd control, or worse. Sarah's paranoia, Tom's instinct, Emily's dread, Mark and Lisa's isolation, Alex's pursuit, all fed into algorithms predicting behavior. This revelation doesn't end the terror. It expands it, suggesting the mastermind's reach goes beyond crime, into influencing events on a larger scale. Every story we share was a data point, and by listening, you become one too. If that cosmic twist chilled you to the core, and you dared uncover the mastermind's real name, hidden in an encrypted file from Alex's last known contact, trace the link in the description. It's a puzzle only the brave can solve, leading to stories even darker than these. As we wrap this journey through shadows and secrets, remember, the next time you feel eyes on your back or hear a whisper in quiet, it might not be imagination. These encounters prove danger hides in the everyday, connected by invisible threads. What if your own story is already being written in that forum? Sleep tight, but check the locks twice. The night holds more than you know, and some questions are better left unanswered. But wait, there's one lingering thread we haven't pulled. What became of the mastermind after Alex's vanishing? Reports whisper of a figure still active, evolving the network into something untouchable. Victims keep emerging, their tales echoing ours, but with twists that defy explanation. Perhaps he's listening now, gauging your reaction. Or maybe, just maybe, the real horror is that it's all true, and the game never ends. Think about that as the lights go out. Good night.